In exercise 6-20, we're looking at a long-term contract. And what we mean by a long-term contract is a contract that spans more than one accounting period in order to complete it. So usually we're talking 2 or 3 years. This is often a construction type project when we do that sort of thing. So this one we have on June 15th, Sanderson Construction entered into a long-term construction contract to build a baseball stadium in Washington, D.C. for $220 million. The expected completion date is April of 2023, so just under 2 years. Just in time for the 2023 baseball season. Costs incurred and estimated costs to complete the year end for the life of the contract are as follows. We see their cost incurred during the year in 2021 is $40 million, in 2022 is $80 million, and in 2023 is $50 million. Estimated cost to complete, so we're saying that the entire thing would be $160,000 because the cost incurred during the year were 40 and the cost to complete was 120, so that would be 160. But notice in 2022 we had costs incurred during the year of 80 and estimated cost to complete of 60, and so the price has gone up over that period of time that it costs to complete. So here's how we work with that. Requirement number one is how much revenue and gross profit will Sanderson report in 2021, 2022, and 2023, assuming Sanderson recognizes revenue over time according to the percentage of completion method. All right, so we make a little grid here, 2021, 2022, and 2023. And we say the contract price and that's given to us up there for $220 million. So we're just going to write 220 across each of those years. Then the next thing that it has is the actual costs to date. So in this line, we actual cost to date. And in the first year, we had 40 million. In the second year, we had 80 million, but that's added to the 40 million. So we write 120 million here. And then in the third year, 2023, we had 50 million. Again, that's added to the 120, so that will be 170 million there. The next line is the estimated cost to complete. And for that one, we are given the estimated cost to complete of 120 in 2021. We're given 60 in 2022 and 0 in 2023. And so we add all those up to get the total, or we add these up to get the total estimated costs. So here it's 160, here it's 180, and here we come in at 170 on that. Okay, so how much revenue are we going to recognize in each year? So in year one, 2021, we did 40 worth of work, and we thought the total would be 160, right? And so that equals 25%, and we multiply 0.25 times 220, the 220 million here, And so we're going to recognize 55 million in revenue for 2021. Then in 2022, our total costs to date are 120, but now we've gone up to 180, and that's 2/3, 66.7%, and we multiply that 0.667 times 220, and when we do that, that would equal 146.74. However, we've already recognized the 55 here, so we bring that down and subtract that off, 55, not 50. And we end up with 91.74 in revenue in 2022. Then in 2023, we're going to have a total cost to date of 170 divided by 170, right, equals 1. 1 times 220 is 220, minus 55 minus 91.74 equals 73.26. All right, so that's our revenue that we recognized over time. But we also need to do the gross profit. And so we take the revenue recognition. So the gross profit for 2021 is the revenue of 55 minus the cost of 40 equals $15 for 2021. In 2022, we're going to have revenue of 91.74 minus the cost during the period. Right. Minus the 80, right? Because we had the 120 minus the 40 is 80, and that's going to equal 11.74. And then in 2023, we're going to have the 73.26 minus the 50, the difference between those years, or it's actually in the narrative up there. And so that's going to be $23.26. Okay, so that's the revenue that, or the gross profit that we recognize each year. All right. Now, on this same problem, they say how much gross profit will Sanderson report in 2021, 2022, and 2023 income statements related to this contract, assuming the project does not qualify for revenue recognition over time. Well, that's easy. In 2021, we'll recognize 0 revenue and 0 gross profit. In 2022, we'll recognize 0 revenue and 0 gross profit. And then in 2023, we will recognize all the revenue, 220, and we will recognize all the gross profit, which is 220 minus the 170 total cost, or $50 million. So that's easy on the requirement number 2. And then requirement number 3, we go back to the first requirement and says, suppose the estimated cost to complete at the end of 2022 are 80 million instead of 60 million. Determine the amount of revenue and gross profit or loss to be recognized in 2022. All right, so let me slide this up just a little bit, give us a little bit more room. So in 2022, we had 120, so that hasn't changed. We have 120 divided by 200 this time, because instead of it being the 60, it would be the 80. And so that's going to make this 200 instead of the 180 that it was here, and that equals 60%. So that goes to 0.6 times 220. And so that would equal 132. We would then subtract off the part that we had recognized before of 55. And so that's going to be $77 there. Then our gross profit recognition. Now notice this. We recognize 77 million in revenue, but our costs this period were the 80 million. And so we end up with a negative 3 million gross profit for 2022. Okay. So that's how we would do a long-term contract.